Hi, this meeting is for the Board of Education and public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for the public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda remarks by the public. Roll call.
Mrs. DeTore.
Here.
Mr. Douglas.
Here.
Mr. Katowski.
Here.
Dr. Phelps.
Here.
Mr. Dorsey.
Here. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion to approve potential agenda?
So moved.
Second? Second. Okay. Any discussion?
I would like to add a new business section where we include brief comments and discussion on the toilet.
Okay. We can put that, standing committee will make it item F for all in favor. Want to make that general business? No, just a new business as in other items that discussed. Because I'd like to talk a little bit about the retreat. What that might look like, when it is, where it's at. Yeah, can we make that a whole new number? We'll just make it 8, push everything back. 9, 10.
Make it 8.
Yeah. We'll make a new business and just sort of be ambiguous because there's just a few things that we'll talk about.
So you can make a motion.
Do I have a motion to add new business? Do I have a second? Any other discussion? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda with the new addition?
First, add take the roll call for the new item.
Okay. Roll call for adding new business as item number 8.
Mr. Thorson.
Yes.
Mrs. DeTore.
Yes.
Mr. Douglas.
Yes.
Mr. Katowski.
Yes.
Dr. Phelps.
Okay. Now do I have a motion to approve the agenda with, okay, roll call. Okay, we've added a new item.
We've added the new item. Would you add it, so now you need a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda with new items. Sorry.
So
Would you like to move that? Second. This is brutal. Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Katowski.
Yes.
Dr. Phelps.
Yes.
Mr. Thorson.
Yes.
Mrs. DeTore.
Yes.
And Mr. Douglas.
Yes. Okay, approval of the meeting minutes for September 3rd, special meeting September 8th, regular meeting September 15th, special meeting September 22nd, and regular meeting September 29th. Do I have a motion to approve all those meetings?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion on any additions, subtractions of those meeting notes?
I missed the 2 special meetings, so
Did
does
that
that impact how we vote on, because I wasn't at the meeting, so I don't know what was said.
You can still vote on them.
I looked them over.
Right, you can still vote on them unless you have any objections to what something else.
So we had some discussion too, Michael, on some of those items, I believe, to me, because I brought you up to speed, so we had some discussion.
Yes.
Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Katowski.
Yes.
Dr. Phelps.
Yes.
Mr. Thorson.
Yes.
Mrs. DeTore.
Yes.
And Mr. Douglas.
Yes.
Okay, item number 5, remarks of the public. Please note, all persons wishing to address the board have a 5-minute limitation. Please state your name, address, and topic. Do I have anyone in the audience that would like to address the board? Are you Pretty sure?
Positive.
Okay. Treasurer's recommendations. Do I have a motion to approve the treasurer's recommendations?
So moved.
Second. Second. Okay. Any discussion, questions, guys?
I do have one question. I know that I had briefly asked Sandy to discuss this, but I think that we need to have some cleanup with supplementals. A little bit of inconsistency, and I've seen it in something that I'm involved in, and once I saw it, several other things came down the pike. In the negotiations handbook, the supplementals are listed, and when there is more than one, it will say high school, middle school, or it will say elementary with parentheses 2, yada yada. There are several in there that don't have either a building or how many it's allotted. So my question was, is I know it's more than one because we've given out more than one. Go ahead, do you have an answer? You look like you have something to say.
Different supplementals. Discussion. Either supplemental appropriations versus a supplemental payment in regards to payments for funds that we're talking.
Well, the reason I'm asking it is because we're approving a supplemental in here.
Supplemental.
Where am I in? And I'm this page 2 or 3. Under personnel matters, that's the one.
Oh, that's okay.
So wait for him. Okay.
But I don't think the answer.
Oh, okay.
These are just supplemental appropriations due to student activity.
The ones listed. The ones we have listed. Anything else? John?
Good.
Roll call?
Mr. Potowski?
Yes.
Dr. Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Thorson?
Yes.
Mrs. Victoria?
Yes.
And Mr. Evans?
Yes. Okay, standing committee discussion. I had a brief impromptu discussion with treasurer about some items. Mostly kind of centered around, I think, what we're doing with the turf and how, how that payment looks. I'm concerned because we took it from the general fund that it's raising our per pupil cost. And so as we look at items continuing forward, that we can sort of delegate out of that general fund. I.e. some items that we talked about on the PI side, and how we might be able to utilize that. So going forward, we're having those sort of discussions. For instance, on the roof PI, we had technology. We also are taking that from the general. We had some other kind of items that we had PIs. Just making sure that, again, we're not that loan, if you will, the turf isn't directly borne on our per student given cost. So, Karen, we also had some discussions about just kind of what's been going on with payroll, what's been going on with accounts payable. Our relationship with there, I think we're 90 days into it. We have some good things, we have some challenges, we have some things that we're working through. So we have a discussion, things that you like to talk about?
I think that's one thing to deal with accounts payable. We are, I know a number of people have been concerned about some of the money that backlog is being worked through. We are continuing to work on how to do that for we'll have to know for next week. So we'll have some additional discussions.
Yeah, we've also talked about, again, not moving too far along, about a retreat, and some members for open enrollment, with some of those discussions at a retreat, and how, the effects. I saw your email down to Mr. Nutter about some information that we could use. I think Karen and I had already talked about some of those numbers, what the impact numbers are. So I think we should be ready, Karen, for the retreat. We should have those numbers ready. Great answer. Yeah, so we should have those numbers so we can make an informed decision.
Mr. Nutter and I will be on staffing time.
Do we have a number on how much of that loan to turf committee is paid back at this point?
Well, we received $200,000.
Yeah.
So I mean, we would say 200,000 of 640.
Yeah. 200,000 on 652.
Yeah,
Now,
4 years.
now, Bill Patterson was saying there was more money coming than they virtually had, so we're expecting to significantly more, but that's the amount in hand that we received. Okay.
Yeah, and in their plan, it was a 4-year kind of thing.
Right.
So,
But some of those, you know, they were before.
Over 4 years.
So
And
the
the
pledges-
last time I talked to them, they had, I think just shy of 550, or between 5 and 550 committed.
Yeah.
You know, and that was like you said, and it could have been a 2 or 3, 5,000 for 4 years or so.
Yeah.
They're really, busting their butts to try to get it paid off well in advance.
Now, is some of that signage revenue that's going to come in every year? That was my impression, that they were going to sell. They were talking about Bainbridge doing it. That's what
yeah,
the
and
proposal is.
quite frankly, I've asked Bill, and he's preparing it to present to the board.
Yeah.
His preliminary report, I thought, was a little less user-friendly, and I suggested that you sort of break that down just a little bit. Not to go too far down the turf road,
Yeah.
but that was $1 million project. They negotiated that down pretty substantially to where they got to the 652. I mean, they were doing a lot of like kind. They were, and they were negotiating.
Yeah, and they said the 200,000, that doesn't include the donations.
200,000 is cash.
Time, that's cash, that's strictly cash. So we've got the sand that was donated by Paramount Minerals, we've got
The restroom,
Mr. Excavator.
excavation.
excavation, yeah, so we've got all that.
Yeah, the
Which is donated
the
on top of
districts
all
were never a part of our
Yeah.
scenario. I mean, this just came, sort of out of power. So, to your point, it is $200,000 cash. What they were able to negotiate, and like I said, like kind and sand and this community and this generosity, it just was amazing.
Yeah.
So it really was $1 million project down to 640. And, really 440
Yeah.
as we look at it today. So, but I'll have to make a presentation on the next board meeting. I think it'll be pretty good. We can talk about how that general fund looks and we can choose. So that was finance committee. It wasn't really a formal meeting, but I expect we'll talk probably the next few days about some other issues if time allows. I mean, she's done a great, wonderful job just trying to catch up. I mean, she started 1 week and we had to have our financial plan. Now we have the 5-year forecast that's due in November 1st. I mean, so, yeah. We'll have those numbers for the retreat. Insurance will be an interesting conversation. It didn't go down. Amazing. Insurance went up. Who would have thought that?
We've been lucky the last few years.
We had very good experience last year.
Luck ran out. Luck ran out. So we'll be ready, I think, for the retreat and those discussions. So, anybody else have any meetings we can discuss?
Well, I don't have meetings, but obviously the policies of the last couple meetings ago that I missed for the policies for the third reading. Michael, you weren't at our special meeting, but I had touched base and said that I reviewed the concerns with the basically at your leisure or, at your earliest convenience or 2 days. And had I been here, I would have loved to clarify because all of the things that I had chosen, that's one thing that we have an option. There are several policies, obviously, you can't do anything with because they're state law and we just have to implement them as is. But some of them we are often given options. And quite frankly, for the newer people, it's even harder for you to dissect what you see in here because they don't show you in comparison what we did have, and they also don't check off everything that we have. So often you'll read something and you're like, well, what are we checking? We've already have things chosen, so unless you see it in bold, all of those things have already been chosen. Right, those aren't anything changed.
Because they used to do that when you and I
They
first
used
started.
to. Yeah, they used to. It used to be very user-friendly, like we
Yeah.
said. Now they put it on a jump drive and they put it on digitally, which is great.
Yeah.
But they've taken away that piece of showing us what we already have existing in that file checked off. So if they're just changing something, you're looking at it going, well, what do we have checked on here? We already have. So you have to go to our policies on our website, look it up, if you want to know those things. When it's in bold, those are the times where we have new options to pick. And so my recommendation was the two, and there are 3 policies in there, 1422, 3422, 3122, and 4122 that are the exact same policy, but they're for administration, they're for teachers and staff, and they just reiterate themselves. And I had 2 in all of my notes, so I called Tim Compton from Neola, and he said, whatever we choose is fine, we just have to let them know. So my recommendation is to choose the 2 days, and then waive because I think that was the only issue. We didn't have any, first reading, second reading, and the third reading that happened. Since that's clarified, I'd like to waive the first and second reading and approve those with the 2 day as the option.
As you say that, really we have an agenda issue because we have the second and third. It should say the first and the second.
Yeah.
So
So
then,
we can make a motion to waive the first and second reading.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
And that needs to be unanimous.
Roll call.
Mr. Douglas?
Yes.
Mr. Pinkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Felton, Dr. Felton?
Yes.
Mr. Thorson?
Yes.
And Mrs. Nicholas?
Yeah.
That waives the first and second reading, so now you can.
We're on the third. A motion to approve.
Yes.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the policies as stated.
I second. Discussion. Are you satisfied then with because I know there's one item with how long the superintendent, isn't that the
That
policy?
was
How
the
long
one, that was the crux of
superintendent
it.
will handle grievance?
Because, so what we've done, as Jack indicated, is give him 2 days, so he's not hanging out there creating questions,
Well,
liability.
it's not even the
questions from people.
again, well, it is a superintendent, but again, in those other 2 policies, it will say that administration has 2 days. It reiterates itself, so whomever it is, they have 2 days to file that.
Right.
So it's all.
So I think we're good now, that's correct. Because now it's consistent with everything else, because it was only that one place where there was a typo or whatever happened.
Right, and well, it's our option, and like Tim said, they offer that is because several districts like to have the flexibility. They don't want to be bound by the 2 days. But we know that we are all trying to get our, harassment and things in order, and we don't want things to be dangling out there for weeks and months at a time.
Okay.
Dr. Phelps, I think there was something in the policy too that was concerned with that, just those weddings and grievances. Okay.
Yeah, because the rest of the policy says it over and over. So to say at your convenience when the rest of it tells you 2 days, I don't even know what they did it is.
And if I understand this right, we've had this since January,
Well,
and this is now, mid-October, and we as a board have had to look at this now for the last, probably what?
since
Month and a half.
July. Well,
Yeah.
since July or August, we got the first set of them to look at it and then started doing it. It did take us, however, 4 months to get the guy from Neola to come because he sits down with us, he sits down with, us administration and goes through these one by one with us so that we understand them fully. And so it took 4 months to get him to have a meeting with us, which is ridiculous.
Why is that, do you think? I mean, will that be streamlined next year?
Well, no, the problem is when you get a new pack like this, which is coming up the pike if we haven't already received them, he has 30 or 40 districts that are all trying to make appointments with them.
Plus there was a lot.
This packet is humongous.
I mean, what kind of gap or what kind of exposure do we have not approving this in January and waiting until October? I mean, obviously nothing happened, but I mean, what kind of exposure do we have? Because, again, going back to Neola, don't we spend a lot of money for that? Do you know how much we spend for that? So we spend $4,000 or $5,000 for a guy who can't make an appointment until July. And we can't go until October on something that we should have had done in January.
Mike, what is the consequence of not having that? Does it just reflect the latest and
Well, it reflects
best?
the latest changes. I mean, if we go back to statute, if it depends on that was out of line, we should go back to the statute, itemized code. If you've got policies still in place, still would go back to the policy that was approved. Unless, of course, there's a different policy.
Yeah.
There's a lot to supersede the policy.
Law always supersedes laws.
For sure.
So, on the ones again that became state law, they're already in, it's just adopting in your bank. If there's option for us, those are the ones we're just going to stay with. Our old policy.
And with those
They're
comes
just
guidelines,
Yeah.
which is from the implementation phase, how to do that. To help There's other options to look at too. I mean, you're not always going to be in game time as well.
Maybe we should look at that when that comes there. Because I mean,
Down the road.
you know, for something, for service you pay that much money for, all those other districts pay that too. Did they, you know, did they get a preferential treatment for that? I'm just wondering.
Well, in the past, and, you know, again, maybe I'm trying to see 2 years. I mean, it's usually 6 to 8 weeks, which is still, it seems long, but I mean, 6 to 8 weeks is a lot better than 4 months.
Yeah.
So,
We'll look to see, well, you know what, maybe you can, just when we go down, OSBA, maybe there's, you know, maybe there's some other direction there. Okay, where are we at? So we need a motion to roll call? Roll call, please. Thank you.
Mrs. Moore?
yes.
Mr. Douglas?
Yes.
Mr. Katsowski?
Yes.
Dr. Buck?
Yes.
And Mr. Blair?
Yes. Okay, our new item that we added on was new business. Let's start with, Ben, I just had the benefit of reading your email earlier in coming to this meeting. Everybody had a chance to read not only what I provided, but what Ben had to provide. This was my direction. I think that the community needs to know the good things that WestGB is doing. Too often, we don't get our message out there. Other messages get out there. So to that point, there were 4 or 5 items in the last meeting, Jackie and I did this because you were here. There were 4 or 5 items that I thought was pretty important. I thought, you know, talk about our own piece, what we might do there, talk about our testing scores, talk about some of our new additions, Sean Whalen, Kim Razak, and our alumni. And so, in thinking about that, in Turk as well, I'm thinking about that. Some of the things that Ben and I probably had the most discussion about, testing scores, those kinds of things I left out. And I thought, well, let me just tackle 2 of these items. Let me see what 2 items we can do. And I think going forward, Mike and I will work on this and how that would go. I don't necessarily think that it's a direction of a board or a board president to do that. I just want that out. I mean, here we are in October. A lot of good things have happened. We haven't told our story again. How long will that take? So, to that end, that's why I provide this. What do you guys think? What's your thoughts?
We got rid of our PR person. It sounds like a dirty word, that PR person, but it takes time to send this stuff out, and it takes effort. And I'm not necessarily in favor of reinstating a PR person because, you know, we have to keep costs down. But we need to find, like, someone to coordinate it in the administration, and then my thought is like 3 or 4 people who would do it, you know, spend like an hour, 2 hours a week just doing it as part of their job. So otherwise, we have to hire a PR person to really want to do this. And then we're talking about, you know, spend $50,000 a year in money. I mean, it's not like a lot of school districts don't have a PR person. You call them whatever you want. You can call them community liaison person. You can call them communications, but basically, that's the person who's getting the news out. And if we want to do that, do it effectively, we have to pay.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that, guys? Again, I go back to, there will be so many items to discuss at this retreat. There won't be enough time. But, you know, going forward and looking at what we want to accomplish as a board, I think one of the greatest things that we can do is just to let people in our community know what we're doing, so that they can judge whether we're doing a good job or a bad job. You know, communications in every relationship, and it's pretty important, I think, with our community to know what we're doing and how we're accomplishing it. You know, just picking up the paper, I read what other districts did, what their scores were, and I'm going to ask that Nancy going forward might be able to present what our scores were at this meeting, and you know, so that we have a pretty good idea of what we're doing well, and like all scores, what we're not doing well, what we can improve on, and how we, like rely on you, how we're going to improve those. What does that look like? So then we can go out to the community and say, listen, we're doing a pretty good job educating your kids, but this is what we do really well. This is what we could do better. And so I think that's really important.
So, and I don't know, obviously this is all just another piece of the puzzle, but I had talked with Mike a while ago about getting a newsletter back out. But again, a newsletter, and I had showed him one, and I told him I had a couple other ones from different schools, and how they structured it. You know, maybe we're pulling a little bit of, instead of reinventing the wheel, what can we get from what other schools are doing? And, you know, hear our story, what is in the upcoming, you know, what is going to be happening in the upcoming months, as well as taking that as an opportunity to maybe highlight a staff member each newsletter, highlighting a student each newsletter. You know, not just, maybe it's a teacher piece, but maybe it's, you know, from both sides. Maybe it's a classified, maybe it's a certified, and we're just, you know, preaching our story about good things that are above and beyond, you know, what people just hear. Maybe we have heard it, but if you don't have a child in the high school, and you have one, you don't know all the wonderful things that are happening there, and vice versa. So use that as a, you know, almost each building having, you know, time to share their story as well.
A great idea. Part of this got started, and I think it was a discussion we had lo and behold, at a real estate meeting, but the discussion came, I heard that WestGB had paid for turf, and they're one of the schools that funded the turf. And it was written in, I think, a local paper. And I was like, wait a minute, no, we did great, that was a great thing, that was a community involvement. And here's all the things that happen behind the scenes. And they're like, that's not what I read. So I looked up the article, and sure enough, if you read that article, it says that WestGB schools paid for the turf, and says nothing about Gridiron Group, says nothing about the work that Patterson did in his group, and I shouldn't just say Bill Patterson because there's more than Bill Patterson, but it said nothing about that, and it just led me to believe there's a lot of those kinds of things going on here that we don't tell our story. One-to-one technology for our 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd graders, and we don't tell that story. So who knows? You know, and that was the whole reason behind some of this idea. Going forward, I agree with you, Matt. It should maybe be something, and I'll rely on you, Mike, to formulate what that would look like. But it should be somebody doing this or somebody's doing this. But I want to get a story out. We're already in the middle of October. We haven't even talked about our test scores that I know of to you know what I mean? I think Nancy, when that press story came out, it was just bad timing. Yeah, and so we didn't get our story out. So I got to read about what Chardon did, I got to read about, you know, how everyone else did, and then it's like, how did we do? You know, and we did great. We didn't tell our story. So that was kind of the reason behind this. Take a look at this, guys. I'd like to do something with this. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a great idea. You know what timeline to do that.
Are you good with this to start with? Because I'm going to tell you, I waited a meeting, now another meeting, I'm into another month, and I just want to release something. Are we good with this? Are we good with releasing this?
Yes, no.
Okay.
But I would have it written by our staff, just objective, straightforward, get the information out, and try to get a couple of reporters in to talk about it. So, try to have that as the basis of something that they would write, because that's, you know, it's even better than they're telling their story. And I think we used to have someone who was like a secretary who was part-time PR, you could say. Was that Sandy Tyler? Who had that job? You guys know? It was Sandy, right? Yeah, she did that. Now, when she moved then, it doesn't look like she was replaced, that no one else was assigned those duties. So what we had is we had somebody who worked as a secretary who was half-time PR too. And, you know, far from perfect, she was professional, but, you know, at least we had a point person to get this stuff out. And, you know, we might find somebody or people or something.
Maybe we'll get our story out in January, or maybe February.
Yes.
Or maybe we'll get it out in March. Maybe we just won't tell our story. Hey, look, we didn't do this in September. Now we're in October 13th. I mean, I'm not saying anything other than here's what we did. I mean, I don't know what the objection is. I agree with you. Going forward, let's get somebody to do that. Today we don't have that, and I'd like to get something out. I mean, if you're not in favor of it, then I totally understand.
Well, I'm totally in favor of it. I'm saying we shouldn't do this. This is political, some of the stuff you're saying. You're slamming Palmer. You're saying we got a $1 million field for about $100,000, but we've still got hundreds of thousands outstanding. We don't actually have it. It doesn't explain that. It makes it look like it's a done deal. And this is self-congratulatory. political stuff. We should have it written objectively by somebody in the administration who knows what they're talking about, so that we don't lose credibility, so that it doesn't look like the board is pushing its agenda, so we're talking about the schools.
And it could be a dumb idea, but I'm gonna throw it out there. What if the board were to, and this would be this month, if we pick 2 or 3 things, or people send us ideas, and for that month, whatever it pertains to, we could ask that person that's in charge of it, of testing. Okay, Brenda, could you come up with a paragraph or 2? Her. Okay, Nancy, this is up. Can you give us a paragraph or 2 about
In fact,
curriculum?
what I would like to see is exactly, see, Brenda, what I would like to see is you calling, where's Brenda?
I think she had
She's-
to.
Oh, okay, well, take Nancy. Yeah, take her.
Yeah, how about Jay? How about you, Bruce?
What I would envision is, the best thing is that you would create a relationship with some of the media people. You might call, Joan Russett and ask her, could she stop by or could you meet her somewhere and just spend half an hour talking to her about what WestG has done that's unique. Then the story gets generated by her, not you. You're there as a resource for her. And what you need is a book. You need something that she'll want to report on. And, that might take a brainstorming, because you always need a book with a story when you're trying to get a reporter interested. Because just the story of someone did better is not a great story. But the best thing to do for the people in specific positions to develop those relationships with the media, so that then the media comes to you and media story, then the media writes the story.
The problem with the media is they tell the story that they want to share.
Right.
They will anyway, because you're sending them your press release, Michael. I mean, you don't have any control. Once it gets in their hands, it's their newspaper.
That's my whole point.
Yeah.
I don't like that idea. I'm not saying that I don't like your idea. I don't like the idea. If we give it to the media, they will figure out what they want to or not to report. But this piece right here, my own question is, where would it go?
A lot of times I get asked, what's going on from the press? Okay, what can you tell us as board president? What's going on with the board? What's going on with WestGB? I have nothing that we've talked about that I can release to you. So I don't feel comfortable saying pretty much anything that we've done positively, just because I represent all of you. I feel I represent all of you when that question's asked me. Okay? I mean, I know I'm only one of 5 people here, but I'm asked as a board of directors what I feel. And so, based on that, I'd like to be able to say something very positive about what we're doing. Otherwise, again, if you don't answer a question, they can fill the blanks. And that's what's been happening. Currently the question is, what are we doing? Do we have a superintendent search? Well, currently we don't. We want to. We talked about it. We talked about OSBA. We talked about it, but we don't. So that answer is really no. And so as we discuss these things a little bit further, I'd like to be able to say, this is what we're doing. I'd like to be able to say something positive about what we're doing. This could be put, I don't know, Sean, something like this, or a piece like this can be put on the website. It can be offered up that way. We can borrow things that are out there that districts are doing with their positive spin. So I just don't want to go another month with saying absolutely nothing. And I'm sorry, but I keep feeling like there's just this roadblock. What do you want to say? I mean, what can we say?
Well, I started writing about it. I sent that to them so that you had a basis to see what I think news really should look like. And you have certain ingredients in it. And the first is you don't want to look like you have hacks around. The second is you try to be objective, because otherwise in the next news release they're not going to believe you. Another thing you do is you try to include photos, you try to include quotes. So I put in that one that I sent to you, I put some quotes from you where, of course, you would have to verify that and say, yes, I feel this. So you put that, because then it sort of personifies the news release. The news release is no longer static. You want quotes. You want people saying these things. We get, for instance, if we're doing technology, we get quotes from Sean about what this technology means and how it's changing the way kids are learning. That though is a formula. I mean, yeah, I agree we should get something out. And if you want it unfiltered by the media, then we have to do newsletter. Because I don't think a lot of people, some people will go, some parents and so on go to the website, but I don't think the community at large will. Have you had that experience where the community at large goes?
How do you see us getting out our word?
Well, the question is, how do we get a newsletter out?
No. How do you see us getting that newsletter?
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
How do you see us getting our word out? How do you see us saying to the public, here's what we're doing, here's how we're doing it, and here's what that looks like, here's what it means?
Oh, well, I've just said, we have to create a point person in the administration who's going to be the one who's responsible for doing that. And
Okay,
handful,
there. How does that look? Just need a point person in the administration. Would that be?
Few people think of.
Okay, so there could be one or two people that we could have look in that direction. Okay, Brad?
yeah. And then that person, as the point person, has several people they can draw on, particularly people who are writing about that they get the information from. Because if you have somebody who's a decent writer in that position, then anyone, a principal, a teacher, can write something up and they'll turn it into a press release. And we also, I think, as I said, we need people like Nancy to develop a relationship. And our superintendent, I'm sure you've done this, haven't you, Mike? Develop a relationship. And maybe it would come from you. But those are, again, the kinds of things that you should be doing. What I'd like to see is you just to report back to us and say, well, here's how we're going to do it. You can even start doing it, because that's totally within your authority. So Dan has the basis of what he wants to communicate, and you've got the authority to go out and do that. And, we need to do
How does
it.
that work in other districts for you? I mean, in other districts that you've been a superintendent, I'm sure they wanted to get the word out there. How did that look? Did they have a PR person?
Some of our districts have a PR person, some of it was me, but I was full-time, so 5 days a week, and it's a little easier to get all that out. So, I mean, part of that is, we used infomercial. I've had this discussion, the discussion I've had with the administrative team is you've got Channel 1, we've got, local access, we have the cable. In years past, in other districts, we put information, we put board meetings on, we stream board meetings live. We have put commercials on the local access. I ran videos on the website. We just talked the other day about teachers tweeting and whatnot, from a communication PR standpoint. There's been, we have school summit or your addressing the schools, yearly, we've done that before. But I mean, it's time consuming and it takes a while to build a relationship with media and whatnot. I mean, it's like newsletters are, I don't know, I look at it now as, most people read a lot of text becomes less and less important, more pictures and video, people are always in a hurry. The videos, the commercials, the things on Channel 1, local access, those are always more well received. We track what people watch. So you can get
The first question is you've probably seen what we started about 18 months ago, the long-range plan. Seen that? Okay. So one of the sections was communication, and they had given us a basis to start. So I think for long term, I think that needs to be up front and center. Because, we have top 5 and 5, we're addressing that. Check, we're going to continue to address that. That needs to be something that goes right to the top of the list, is the long-range plan for communication. What are all of those things that we're going to choose as a district, or as a committee for that, choose and lay that out for us. And I think we need to hear that, very soon, in the next couple of months. But short term, right now, would it be fair to say, hey, we have a meeting next week, a retreat? Would you be able to take these 3 or 4 ideas and come up with a paragraph for each of them so that we could send it out next week?
Yes, sir.
Would that sound a little more fair? These are the 3 topic ideas, testing, turf, have it done by next week for our turf meeting so we can get it out.
Yeah. Dan, did you want technology in there too?
I don't know what the 4 were, but I think you went down to just 2, we said.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, and then every month, you know, whether it's them giving us ideas of PR things, or we're saying, hey, look, this is what we need to, then, you know, you direct it to whoever it needs
Yeah.
to be directed to, but
You know, and I agree with you, Mike, about print and newsletters in general. This district, though, has a very elderly population base. You know, as you probably heard me say, Russell has the oldest population in Geauga County. Chester was not far behind, and so a lot of those people, I think, are not up to speed for going on Facebook or using, you know, any new media that's out there.
I wasn't saying not use it, I was just saying
No, yeah.
incorporate it. Because you know,
multiple tools.
Right. And,
No, you
and
want
it's
multiple
multiple
tools.
Yeah, and we've got to figure out how we can afford to do that without hiring a PR person for, you know, whatever X number of dollars.
Well, I think, everything you hear up here is accurate. You want to tell the story, you want to tell the good things that we're doing, you want to get that word out. I'm not saying, you know, just do away with print either. I'm just saying, you know, you want to establish a community that, you know, cutting edge, moving forward, progressive at the same time, so, you know, remembers where it came from, its culture. I think those are things that you have to even lead, because people don't have children. You don't have children in the school system, well then, but you also want to create an attractive environment, a school system that's engaging and one that is, you know, moving forward. You talk about cliches in 21st century education, but the fact still remains, the kids are in their freshman year of high school, hold down a job that doesn't exist. So therefore, we do need to, you know, show the premise and you know, forward to move forward and say, okay, these are some of the things we're doing cutting edge. I mean, we have a lot of good things to say. I mean, I would tell you that, you know, behind the scenes that, you know, we have worked tremendously hard on a lot of things to try to calm things down so we can move forward. I think the last few board meetings have been a prime example of that. But, you know, as you move forward, you know, I think that, you know, we have work to do. We've done some good things and we'll continue to do that. But to answer your question, I'm not saying to get rid of anything. I'm just saying as we move forward, there are things that we need to do. But, you know, we talked about this. We've had this conversation in our administrative meetings. We have them every week.
Yeah.
You know, the technology plan, what does it look like and this and that. And we can't just go, I mean, Johnson out there right now. We just don't go out and spend money right now because we're not sure which direction. We want to make sure the direction's right. Because it's good for the kids. And good for medical care.
Well, what I was wondering is there any way, like, our students could be responsible for part of this?
For the PR?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
You don't have a video channel.
Well, here's the thing.
You don't have a community access channel.
I know these are all questions I asked when
Yeah.
Jay. I mean, I went over to the high school and I said,
I can tell you right now, I mean.
well, I just looked at the studio that
Yeah.
existed. There's a
Right.
studio over there
Yeah.
that exists. We just currently aren't utilizing it. It's
Yeah.
got some things.
There's some good things going on at high school, we tweet about it, the newspaper often will retweet things and stuff. So a lot of the word is getting out there that I can see, you know, in the sense that, you know, if you just go out, we have a school newspaper, and that gets posted out there, and that's not one thing for websites.
Well, Jay, some years ago, this is what I've heard. I don't know how much this is accurate. You might know. Somebody donates some money so that, and it might have been Russell Township, so that we could hook up to cable access because we needed certain equipment for interface and so on. And that was under Tony Pottigill, and you know
I
how.
was in charge of the program.
So you know what?
TV.
So as I understand it, though, the money got spent on other things because it rolled into the general fund and then it got spent. But what happened with that? Can we?
Time Warner gave us a box.
Uh-huh.
I don't recall a donation.
Okay.
I can't say it happened, but
Yeah.
it was several years ago. I don't recall a donation, but Time Warner gave us a box that will establish a connection. However, in order to get it, we needed to purchase a lot of extra other equipment. And back then, I remember Tony Pottigill saying it was somewhere in the area of about $50,000 that we needed in order to get, the decks at the time, the players, and a lot of the switches that were required in order to get the content out there ahead of time. And,
Yeah.
for example, there's a screen that displays messages back then. It was almost like a PowerPoint presentation. And that machine was too expensive.
But all that stuff has gone down in price since then, hasn't it? So we could explore.
We are. That's why I was over there.
That's great.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I've been
well,
over
that's
there
what I'm
doing
saying,
that.
revisiting the long range,
Right,
long
that's
range.
long
Well, right
range.
now, we're just trying to fix this.
Absolutely.
So we know we're gonna hear a long range.
Okay, so if we give you 3 items for a retreat, we give you 3 items for the retreat, comfortable with that? What 3 items would you like Mr. Miller to work on? I would like technology, turf, and testing.
Scores, testing.
Testing scores. Sorry, Dan. Testing scores. Okay.
I agree.
Good.
Okay, new business item, we talked about common core.
I'm going to be extremely fast because I don't want to get into a debate about it. All I am putting on there is because we've heard a lot of huff and puff about it. We've heard it, I'm sure you've all watched the news and all of the fight. I don't know how many of you are familiar with 597, the bill. And I think that we need to stay informed on this issue because if anything does progress, we may get slapped very, very hard with things we're not prepared for. So I would like to have a presentation in our November meeting with a pro and a con. I want to hear both sides from both people. We know Nancy is a pro for, and you can cheerlead as much as you want, but I would like to hear the other side as well. You know, whether that's, we limit that to a 10 or 15 minutes to each side or whatever. I think we need to hear 2 sides of the
We'd
story.
like a presentation in the November meeting for pro and con.
Who do we have in mind for time?
I don't know, and the reason why, because, you know, a lot of people are sending emails that they would like to share
I
that.
have a con.
Okay.
I personally.
Because for me, I don't necessarily want it to be a parent or a thing. I would like it to be an unaffiliated educator, you know, that, and I'm not saying that parents aren't educated and they haven't done their research, but a certified, you know, just like Nancy's curriculum,
Right.
somebody in the same field, so I don't know if anybody has ideas, if you do. Before
We
you're,
working it?
can you work on
We working it.
finding both sides?
Yeah, absolutely, we working it. New business. Anybody else? Doesn't nobody you want? I would like to talk about our administrators being at our meeting. These folks work their tail off day in and day out, and we require them to come to our board meetings. Yeah, we did, to a certain degree. Yeah, I'm thinking that, is there any reason from a board standpoint, you wouldn't say, Mr. Nutter, it's his discretion as to what the administrator should show up? I don't.
No, it makes sense. I mean, it should be his discretion unless we specifically request
I
something.
mean, I appreciate that you guys are here. I truly do. But you're also taking away time from your family, and, you know, if we don't need some feedback from you guys, I don't know why we would expect that of you. So I appreciate that you did
Well,
that.
we can still come, we're not turning them away. It's just, some meetings we have, not that we do work sessions anymore, but some meetings we ask them to give us a report, and it's nice to have
That's
them
on
there.
that's on the retreat work session.
Okay.
That
Okay.
is back on the retreat.
Okay, well, I won't jump in.
But I mean, to talk about what we want to work sessions with. But, yeah, from that standpoint, Mike and I had talked about it, and I think Mike made a positive stance on it, saying, no, I don't see why they would be there, or why they should be there. I think that's you know, other districts don't do it, other districts don't do. I just don't think it's fair of them to ask that of their family. And unfortunately, Mr. Russo, we could probably do a lot of things that require, you know what I mean? I know, I apologize, maybe we could work through that, and it's only once a month or so. But no, from that standpoint, again, I appreciate you guys take this time away from your family and do that. It means a lot, and I'm sorry that it isn't always the time that we need to get feedback, so I think that's important. Anything else in new business?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We, with the previous board in particular, were really gung-ho on performance-based compensation.
Okay.
And that's the whole ball on that is a drop now, because I understand that it's not actually anybody's contract, though. It's the way we were planning to give raises. And at this point, we haven't given any of the administrative personnel any raises, as I understand it. So what's the concept behind that? What do you think we should do? So this is really, just trying to fill us in on where we stand on that.
When I came on board here, there was a package of, I'll back up, it was my understanding that 2 years ago the administrators were told they would be given a raise. They were not. Last year they were told they would be given a raise based on this formulary. When I got here, the formulary wasn't completed yet. Still not completed, so I think that we need to have that discussion, at the next meeting and talk about what direction you want to go.
Yeah.
Because, we're all over the, I think we're all over the board here, and as the treasurer and myself sit down here and try to, gauge things, and we look at supplementals. I mean, another example, our supplemental costs are, I think, extremely high for a district this size.
Yeah.
And I think, those things that go into that, but I think there's a lot of opinion I have about the package and the merit-based pay and whatnot like that, things like that, but I think you need to flush that out and think of all the things that are considered.
Yeah, because it seems like since the teachers have gotten a raise, and since it's been a couple of years, it just seems to make sense that we do something, and what that is, I mean, obviously there are a couple of ways. I mean, what I understand, and have you encountered this where there's a salary schedule for advancing wages?
I've seen salary schedules for administrators. I've seen administrators get the same raises the teachers get, and I've seen merit-based performance. I've seen all three.
Oh, okay.
Typically, a lot of times the merit-based is just the superintendent.
Yeah.
Administrators are usually
You
more.
put that on hold. If I remember, that was one of the things you talked about putting on hold while we were still negotiating contracts.
Yeah.
And you'd said, because there was a move to do that, and you said, well, let's just wait to see where we're at with teachers.
So it's a good time to start talking about it. I mean, how should we do that? Is that an executive session thing, or is that something that we talk about?
It'd be a good work session item.
Would it? Okay.
And I'd like
Thrown
to,
out a few ideas with the old board of changing our old formula for performance days.
Yeah.
And we could incorporate into that. And we had several different ideas that would also be useful to bring the other three, they may be ideas that, could be incorporated.
Yeah, so, given the lag, it should probably be one of our earlier work sessions, unless there's something really, that's got a gun to our head.
well, no, but, yeah, and then I think the other thing too, when you talk about previous boards, the whole pickup on, the pickup issue and pickup on the pickup, those types of things that were, either given or taken, we need some consistency, and, some of this performance-based, if you go through it, I mean, there's formulas in the mock-up that I had seen previously from the other administration was one that by the time you do from the formularies, you multiply by this, you multiply by that, and you come out to, it's a pretty minuscule rate.
Oh, that's what we like.
So, well, these guys work pretty hard too. So, I just think that, if you're going to lay it all out on the table, you need to know where you came from.
Yeah.
We know how to get there. So I think you look back on that, some of this was prior to some board members here. Some of this was, I think you were still here on the board at the time, but I don't know if anybody else was. Yeah. So you two,
That's
everybody else
something
is
that
new.
we can
so I think it needs to be looked
very
at.
soon,
Yeah.
in the next month or so.
Why?
Yes, we should.
And maybe even done sooner than later, because these administrators have been out here, this is year 3 now.
Yeah, so we do have to do something about that, and we do have to kind of discuss the philosophy that we're going to go with, because, if we decide we want performance-based, then, people have to know what goals they've got to reach, and there's got to be a fair and objective way to evaluate them. If we decide we're going to go on a schedule, then, we have to have good, solid job descriptions so that people can meet the expectations. So it's going to be a conversation.
Well, it needs to be, but I just think, like you said, when you talk about different philosophies, there's been different boards. This got started a while back, and I think the philosophies have changed or, morphed into something maybe similar to, different down the way. So just need to get that situated.
Fair enough. Anybody else in your business? Okay. Superintendent's report.
Just a few things. I know we're sending this out as far as winter. Mr. Russo, we talked about the salt parking lots. Obviously, salt is going to be extremely expensive. I'm not saying that we're not salting the parking lots, but just be aware of we're going to get everything out there like we always do. But there's just some of it's just supply. I mean, there's a concern of supply. I mean, if we don't have it, we can't spread it, obviously. So as you look forward, we talked about this, we had at the high school for the kids driving. People out there in the community who come to the buildings where you have kids or not, if you're coming in for something, just be aware in the winter here, it's a harsh winter, at times there may not be, like you're used to it, so to speak. And it's not because we're not doing it somehow, but because there seems to be some issue with salt this year. So, just
If
an
that
FYI.
is out, can we disseminate that to them? I mean, if that is the fact and we're getting hurt, can we inform the parents that?
That's what I was saying. We've already sent it out
Okay.
in bulletins, we've sent it out to the high school for the kids driving. I'm bringing it up for people that may not get a bulletin.
Is there any kind of deal that we can do with the township as well?
That's what we get for our lots. Now, the bag salt for the sidewalks, we might buy from vendors, but the salt for the parking lots comes from Chester Township. And the price we got this year was about 2.5 times what we paid last year. But that's currently, if we were to buy it now, it would be double that price. It was astronomical.
It was inevitable, it was going to raise on this measure because we were really stealing it almost last year.
Price-wise, yes.
And then the whole plan, I mean, like, we're still only allowed to have, even if we have snow every single day, they set a limit on what we're allowed to take from their supply as well, so.
And they cut us off last year.
Right.
Does the state have any purchasing on that, or is
I
that,
beg your pardon?
does the state have any purchasing on that? For schools?
No.
For schools, no.
No.
Okay.
What's the liability of that? So you cut back
Well, I don't think we're cutting back.
I'm just saying that what, if for some reason, I don't know the answer to that, but on a liability from falling and getting hurt. Is there rules in that? Like,
Well, you have, if an employee were to get hurt, was on unemployment workers' compensation, if somebody slips and falls, they get hurt on our property, yeah.
because we had that in our, facility where people are parked, if you don't fall, then you get the person to fall.
Well, the plan would be to make sure that the areas where someone is walking from a parking spot into the building, those areas are clean. But what you're probably not going to see is every parking spot cleared to the degree it's been in the past. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's just, we just want to make you aware. I mean, we're not salting if we don't have enough salt from a supply standpoint. I mean, we used to put chains on the tires of my car when I started driving, but I don't think we do that. Or snowshoes, stuff like that. And so we still put studs in the tires, not
The
chains.
relationship we have with Chester Township, with our Russell. So maybe.
Both forward to supplement Westwood, maybe?
I can check.
Maybe we give it, I mean, obviously our other 3 buildings, but that might be a good idea, at least in one building. More.
Just saying, I mean, and maybe put that building on stuff.
Right.
And just a thought. Just a thought. Okay.
And we talked about Alice a while back, if you remember, the training, the administrators, and people that went to that. Just, I know this has been communicated, it's going out as well, but there will be a drill at the middle school. About that, so people know about it, but if you see, there'll be public police cars here and whatnot, so you see that, that's what that is. It's a drill. And then just, this is out to, on behalf of the students and staff at Westwood and Lindsay. They want to thank the Rotary Club for donating their student directories. So I just wanted to put that out there. They have a letter sent to them as well, but they donated the directories. Just want to say thanks. And that concludes my report.
Good. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendations? So moved. Do I have a second? Can I ask any questions?
I mean, these are, we've got our agreement, we've got the school trip, anytime kids go somewhere overnight, it's going to be approved. We've got in lieu transportation contracts, a lot of those are your typical transport, we pay in lieu transportation.
We're guys going to have a discussion about supplementals.
I was just going to say, but I'm content with saying, I'll wait for the moment because it looks like you're looking at supplementals because you haven't.
There's an issue.
Thank you. And think they need to be addressed. Okay, so you need to continue?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Dorsey?
Yes.
Mrs. Dupart?
Yes.
Mr. Douglas?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Dr. Paul?
Yes.
Okay, announcement of our next board meeting. We have a board retreat on October 20th and 21st, from 8:30 to 12. Location, we have several locations. I'll utilize Mr. Nutter to let you guys know. I just haven't, yeah. It's up to Supt. You want to stay until 12. Do you need a note?
Unless we're starting early.
Do you want it? I could ask my husband and Rick to see if one of those 2 days I can start at 8.
I can have the journalist.
Karen, if we change that week when we,
We'll sit on, I have to sit on special notes, you know.
we have to get it by Thursday, right?
Which day do you have to be up on the Thursday? I'll certainly let me ask my husband and Rick to see if he can, I know one of those days he has sports, but definitely not. We'll figure it out, so we can do it.
Any, so, also regular meeting will be October 27th at 7 p.m. in Middle School Community Center. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Do we have something else?
On the
Do I
agenda?
have something to adjourn?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
right. Motion to adjourn. Second. Roll call.
Dr. Phelps? Mr. Dorsey?
Yes.
Mr. Dorsey?
Yes.
Mr. Douglas?
Yes.
Yes.
Now you
Okay.
select.
Now, my blurb is, please join us November 7th and 8th. We are resurrecting middle school plays. Here, Dan, Rich, and myself. So we're putting on Andy Jr. So if you'd like to join us at 7:30, let me know.